It sounds smooth. It sounds good. But at the end of a 30-minute pitch, and this is no BS, I ask myself, what did they just say?
That is priority number one for leaders, getting everybody in that room, virtual or real, to where Bob knows what needs to be done, where Bob can walk out of that meeting and know these are the things I need to go make happen. And if we all do that, good things are going to happen.
The more you soften, I think the more it creates that ambiguity where you get the very anxiety that you're trying to avoid. Entry music. Da, 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 da. It's the Bob and Josh Show.
Today's episode is going to be all about context and clarity. Do you actually know what's being said at you? A thing you may hear in social media or online or in movies is mansplaining, things like that. And there's manager speak, and that's a problem. So Bob and I are going to tackle that today. This is Bob's idea, so I'm excited to see where he takes us.
Well, Josh, I think the forecast for today's episode is slightly cloudy with some mist on the horizon. But then when I get down to the bottom line of it, to the gist of it, we're going to be talking about clarity. The multiple levels of clarity, the multiple dimensions of clarity. If you've ever seen Mr. Spock talk about clarity, I think that's not a good example. But maybe we'll get to how to not obfuscate the point. Metacasters, I just tried to simulate ad hoc saying many words that don't mean shit. and not having clarity and not making a point. But I don't think I sounded too bad. I sounded okay.
You said words and people nodded along and like,
okay. That's Bob.
But I didn't walk away feeling like I knew something now that I didn't know 3 minutes ago.
And that was my intention, Josh.
Job well done.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So to clarify Metacasters, it's this, I coined the term in my head, manager speak. When I coach leaders, if I attend an all-hands meeting, if they're asking me to critique it or prepare them, I'll listen to them. If they're doing a dry run or if I'm in the meeting and later on they're like, hey, what did you think? And it's falling into buzzwords, falling into management buzzwords, saying things that aren't, you're obfuscating the point for some reason, for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes it's believing people can't handle the truth. Sometimes it's uncomfortableness with sharing the truth. Sometimes confidentiality is part of it, right? Or having to walk that line between what can I say and what can I say, and then deflecting away from that. I can't tell you how many organizational meetings, leadership meetings, board meetings, all hands meetings I've attended in my life, and I've listened to people, and it's elegant. One of the insidious things about it sounds good. It sounds smooth. It sounds good, but at the end of a 30-minute pitch, and this is no BS, I ask myself, what did they just say? And I can't put my, like, what do they want me to do? What are we going to do? How are we going to respond to a threat, a competitive threat? Just very clear questions, which they were trying to address. And I'm like, I have no idea. What's really disheartening for me as a leader is I don't know how to translate that into actions I can take, which is like horrible. I'm like, because I want to support him. Like my heart is, damn it, yes, Skippy, I want to support you 100%, but I don't know what the hell you said, and I don't know how to translate it. So this episode is more around, maybe the first part is self-evaluation. Have you found yourself falling into that trap? I think we all can fall into that trap. Josh, any reactions?
Yeah, I think we've all been in a situation where you and your group of friends at work are going into an all hands and somebody distributes the buzzword bingo card because you know things like synergy and
Oh,
words like that are going to get used. And
yep.
that everybody knows that there's a reason those buzzword bingo cards are everywhere because leaders do a poor job of creating the two things that I believe a leader must do. You have to provide context so that there's clarity. And the clarity is often, as Bob mentioned, the part that gets left behind. There's a belief that context was shared, and so now I've done my job. I've said the words, but what is unfortunately rare is clarity, and that can be hard for numerous reasons because of confidentiality or fear or whatever the things are. I've been there. I've heard the words tumble out of my mouth and I tried to retract them as I was saying things because I was nervous or scared or I don't know what. And it was disappointing. So those are lessons I've had personally over time of trying not to be the buzzword bingo leader. So again, everybody here that's watching or listening to this has sat in a meeting, physically or virtual, where they knew the buzzwords were coming at them. And they knew that's all that was being said, and there was no clarity coming out of it. So that is priority number one for leaders when you are communicating is getting everybody in that room, virtual or real, to where Bob knows what needs to be done, where Bob can walk out of that meeting and know these are the things I need to go make happen. And if we all do that, good things are going to happen.
I was just trying to do a search online and trying to find. It would be interesting. We should have done that before we talked. Like, what are some typical, like synergistic is one, strategic alignment is one, right? You can hear these buzzwords come out, and they're usually strung together. So I'm going to say, for whatever, I don't even know what the reason is. I'm just saying simple things. Like keep it simple is the correct strategy. If we're going to have layoffs, say that we're going to have layoffs, right? And I usually like to do this when I'm coaching people, Josh, or doing performance improvements and things. I'll give them a straight sentence. Your performance sucks here, not sucks, but your challenge here, and then I'll walk back. But what I want to make sure is I've landed clarity, and then I'll add nuance and context to your point. And the reason that I have that pattern is I want someone to walk away with a clear idea of what I'm saying. I want no confusion whatsoever. So I think the right strategy is sort of like that. Not to alienate people or to trigger them, but if we're having a rah-rah or if we're going to do a reorg, right? We're going to do a reorg. Don't talk about business dynamics. Don't talk about financials. Don't talk, and take ownership of it. I've decided that we're going to do a reorg. I think there's inefficiencies in the organizational structure, and I think some leaders are dropping the ball. So I've decided that we're going to do a reorganization. And let me unfold how that's going to be. Period. Just clarity around the reorg. Instead of dancing around it, and I've seen that pattern, like we throw all this data out there, and then we leave the punchline for last instead of putting the punchline first. Any reactions to what I'm saying?
A couple things. Yes. I think you even buzzword bingoed that a little bit.
Did I?
You talked about inefficiencies in the organization and we're going to reorg and we're going to do that. It's like, what exactly is inefficient? Like, what exactly does that mean?
Josh isn't working hard enough. All right.
Cool. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Great.
Josh.
Yeah.
Josh is, and everyone, I'm going to demote his butt.
But that's the level of clarity is walking out of that meeting. Do people know what efficient looks like? And those are the things that you need to track towards. And I don't know, 20 years ago, I set off, and I'm afraid to say this in front of Bob. I set off on this mission to write a novel. So I started studying what that was, and there was a book recommended to me by Stephen King called On Writing. And Stephen King has written a few words in his day and has sold a few books, and many of the movies that you see are inspired or directly taken from the books that he wrote. And one of the things that he talks about is he aspires to write so that it can be read by a third grade level. And why? He's not trying to insult people. He's just trying to make sure that it is consumable by as many people as possible. So when you're thinking about the phrasing you are going to use, simple is better. Be clear, be direct. Don't try and create this fancy prose that has all these long words that make you feel like you're saying something, but you're not. You have to fight like crazy to dial it back and say it in simple, plain language. Not easy. I'm not suggesting it's easy, but that's the goal. That's the target of what you need to be after.
Absolutely. I think something that agreed there, I heard a sound, so something violently agreed with. But yeah. So I think one key is the simplicity of your messaging. The dry run, I just demonstrated that with Josh, and he gave me feedback. And so having a dry run and having someone that you feel comfortable calling BS. Now, I might push back and say, well, I'm not prepared to talk about that because efficiency is hours worked. And I think we're averaging 30 hours a week of real work, and I want 60. But I'm not willing to say that right this second. That's fine. But now you're making an obfuscation decision, right? I'm being clear here, clear here, clear here, but be intentional about it as a leader. Plan it as a leader and lean into that the simple messages. I think another thing is what do you want people to take away? I talk about in storytelling. I talk a lot about an arc. There's like tell people what you're going to tell them and tell them what you told them. There's a story arc, a very common sort of arc. Very often you want to stick the landing. When I'm coaching people, the thing you want is what is the landing, and you go back to, so you set the stage, you have some stuff, and then you stick the landing what connects back to the beginning. And so what's your key message? Another way of saying it is, what do you want people to take away? It goes back to my point. What do you want me to do? Very often sticking the landing is telling people, what's the action? What's the action I expect from you? Right? What we're going to do strategic planning. It's going to involve every engineer in the place. We're going to re-challenge our projects. Right? There's 3 apps that we're going to change right away. We're going to reevaluate them. And I need you to do that. We need to do that quickly. So team A, team B, or org A, org B, org C, right? You immediately are going to start rejiggering these apps because we're losing money on them or whatever. Or we're going to evaluate whether we're going to keep them or we're going to retire them. That's a silly example of that's the actions I'm looking to do. Or if we're going to do a reorg, we're going to be doing the reorg over the next week. And you might even say something like, we've already done it, so don't give me any feedback. I'm being a little rude here, but I don't want your feedback. Okay? This is courageous leadership, actually, in my mind, is being honest. I don't want your feedback. The org chart is already done. Whoever's gone is gone, right? What I need you all to do is suck it up and accept the org, and let's move forward. If it takes us 6 months to accept this org, we're going to reorg 5 more times. So we need to accept the org and move on, everyone. And that type of clarity. Josh, am I doing a good job or a bad job?
No, I think you're doing good. The question that I ask at the end of meetings, and I make sure that it's my job that there's clarity on what the answer is going to be, but I want people to say the truth, is does everybody know what we need to do coming out of this meeting? We've had a planning session. We've done a thing. We've made changes. Is there any lack of clarity on what we all need to go sprint towards right now? And if not, please raise your hand. And it's my job as the leader and the communicator trying to explain why or whatever's happening in that moment, that everybody walks out of there with the context and clarity that they need to go do their job so we can achieve the goal, whatever it is. And I ask that question because it's important that I think I did a good job, but just because I think I did a good job doesn't mean it landed in people's brains and was processed the way I hoped. Maybe I missed. Maybe manager spoke more than I thought I did. I had a plan. I was going to say it clear, and then I got nervous and wavered and said words I shouldn't have or something like that. So I always use that as a last check to make sure that I got it right.
Now, I would do that. It depends on the context, right? So if that was an all-hands meeting, I would say don't do that, right? And there was 500 people in the audience. I would say check with your manager. So if it's a small group, do what Josh said. If it's a larger group, then leverage your leadership team and say, look, if you walk out here and you're confused, talk to your leader. If you're still confused after you talk to your leader, talk to me. Or something like, and I'll fire your leader. so we'll figure that stuff out. So there's a little bit of nuance to it. Why don't we talk about we talked about fear being a driver? Maybe, I don't know. I think it's maybe management skill. Is it? I wonder if it's this thing is the more skilled you are, the better you are at clarity. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know what stops it. Is what I'm trying to put up in the air is what are the key instigators for this phenomenon? Because I think I've gotten out of it. And for me, the learning was other people taught me, right? Like watching other people do it poorly, inspired me and taught me to work on it and to be better with that. Josh?
Yeah, I think it ultimately is rooted in fear of some sort, and not always bad fear, but fear of like caring and wanting to do it really well. And sometimes when you want something to go well, you over plan or you overspeak or you overdo things. And that's a common thing. Like I even catch myself in this when I'm talking and there's a point I want to make and I just hear the words come out of my mouth. Like, why did I say it like that? Like that is not as clear as it could be. So I think it's reps, which is why Bob is comfortable. This is my cheap shot at Bob. Bob's had a lot of reps. So
yeah, it's true.
But I think about the meetings that I led where I was driving change when I started versus when I do it now. And I'm much better at it now because I've had more reps and I've made mistakes and I've had the feedback and I've learned and I've realized, oh, that didn't land as well as I thought. Or people have said like, what the hell did you just say? Various things like that. So I think ultimately it's some form of fear that causes us to jumble the words that are coming out of our mouth. I don't know anything more than that.
As I'm thinking about it, I'm also thinking that it's kindness or it's fear, but I think it's like if you care about your team, then you try to soften the message. I want to do the least amount of harm. I want to be subtle. I want to get the point across. It's like politicians. It's manager speak and political speak, right? So you can do it because you're an ass. I don't think most leaders are doing it from that point of view. They're doing it because they're trying to soften. They're trying to not get an overreaction, not get folks, not create anxiety, not create change churn and things like that. However, the more you soften, I think the more it creates that ambiguity where you get the very anxiety that you're trying to avoid. Now, last episode, I think we were talking about making friends or relationships at work. And I think that helps because I can have radical candor with Josh, and because I have a relationship with Josh, he receives it in the right in the right way. So even if I screw it up, I've screwed it up badly with Josh, and he's gotten angry with me. But even if I do it poorly, he sees the truth because we have a relationship, and I do the same thing with Josh. So I don't overreact, and I think that's another way of empowering yourself to do this is the relationship building. If you're doing the relationship building, then you can lean into the candor or the clear speak side of things. Because folks aren't going to, they're going to understand where you're coming from, even if you do it poorly. Any reaction, Josh?
Yeah, something that I think people told me that didn't process until I went through it is that people recognize when you care, and when you manage or speak, it feels like you care less. And that really comes across. It feels like you are unwilling to say the clear, plain truth. And even though it might be scary to say the clear, plain truth, when that is done, your team respects you and trusts you more because they know that you're saying what you mean, and they have clarity on what good looks like, what bad looks like, where we should go, where we shouldn't go, what we're going to do. But when you create ambiguity, there's all this hesitation. And so now, okay, what's this guy going to say? And is it going to help me? Is it going to make it worse? I'm going to walk away scratching my head. Are we going to all go to lunch and say, like, what? I'm more confused now than I was before the meeting. And that's a thing that I had to learn through trial and error to really believe it, even though people told me and said, you do this, and I had leaders that did that. But becoming the leader that I wanted to be wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be, right? When you stand up there and the nerves kick in and whatever it is, things happen, and it's frustrating and it's annoying, but it did become reps for me where I was able to become the leader I wanted to be and say the things I wanted to say clearly and plainly. But I did have to put my foot in my mouth a few times, unfortunately.
I think that engenders, I mean, I think that creates realness. I think that engenders the team. It garners respect. It garners empathy, realness as a leader, genuineness as a leader. It's really uncomfortable to do it, Josh, right?
Yeah, I think that's it. Like I know these are real words, real thoughts, real care, as opposed to it feels like you're playing the shell game of like, look over here while I say these words. Like I'm going to change something behind your back while I'm saying these words. And that's what it feels like when the manager speak is happening, because you're trying to decode like, okay, what do you actually mean? What are you saying?
Right.
What should I do? So it feels like there's some sort of trickery happening, even though that may not be intent of what the leader's trying to say. They just don't say it well. But that's ultimately what the team feels.
I want to land this episode with this idea. I think one of the reasons it's hard to do this is if you're in a manager speak culture and you start, we're going to talk management speak and genuine speak, right? If you start genuine speaking in a management speak culture, and there's a lot of management speak, particularly large scaled organizations, folks conform, then folks, you're going to feel like an alien. You're going to be judged probably. Your leaders are, why did you say that?
Yeah.
What do you, right? It was too clear. So, and I'm bringing it up not to stop you. I'm bringing you up to be aware of that you're going to get resistance. You're going to get sort of negativity in the culture. So you may have to adjust your speak. You may have to make some subtle decisions. You may have to keep your job or whatever. But at the same time, I think it's don't succumb to the culture. Succumb to make it more of a, you be the role model, right? And if you have genuine speak, I would argue your teams are going to perform better. They're going to have clarity. They're going to not have the confusion. And you're going to create results arguably better results than other folks are. So the results may speak for itself, but it's not easy. That's the point. Don't, and that may be an inhibitor. So realize that I think it's a challenging, and most environments are challenging for this. It's a worthwhile endeavor. It's a worthwhile experiment, and just take care of yourselves. Josh, any reactions to that?
No, we've talked in the past about the difficulty of getting pickled being an organization that operates a specific way. And this is certainly one of them where you're going to be the outlier. You're going to probably catch some flack from your boss because you said things differently than he would have liked them said, or there's clarity that he may feel the team can't handle or shouldn't handle or whatever it is. But you have to be that North Star. You have to be the one driving the change. And is it uncomfortable? Yes. I find it more uncomfortable to not do my job and not provide the clarity. So I always lean towards this, even though it can be harder within a larger organization.
I land it?
Sure. Yeah.
So, Metacasters, be clear. So from beautiful downtown Cary, North Carolina.
And from beautiful downtown Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina.
I'm Bob. Clarity is my obfuscated middle synergistic name, Galen.
Wow. And I'm just plain old Josh Anderson.
Shake
and bake.
Take care, y'all. Well done, my friend. Well done.